I'm embarrassed by now, and you probably can't see it, is down at the bottom of that little picture, there's big letters about a copyright notice. That thing that we're looking at is over 2,000 years old. I mean, copyright notice? I would have pushed harder on that front. So it's not just about technology, but it's also about people and policy that applies to. Less expensive.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Oh, sure.
I just want to say thanks for doing that copyright notice and screwing it up for every other art museum for the next decade.
Yeah, well, I'm embarrassed. I mean, just, you know, when I saw that, I pulled it out of an old PowerPoint presentation. I thought, oh my God, look at that. It also means less expensive and more sustainable. Everybody looks at these projects and says, oh my God, it's going to cost us a lot of money. Both in terms of the way you organize, in terms of staff. You don't necessarily need to hire all these people to do this. If you look at technology as part of the way you do your business, not as something that happens in a room over there, but really part of everybody's business, it can be less expensive and for the institution more sustainable. Had we had the choice 15 years ago to look at open source community supported applications to do what we were doing, we would have done it. And if I were starting this project now, I would demand that. Lastly, get out of the way. Once things are available to the public, just get out of the way. Let them talk to you, support them in any way you can, but don't demand through this venue what we have always tended to demand inside the institution. That is, there is the institutional voice for the label. That's great, because it's hard to have public walking in and slapping up little labels on your wall, largely because you have to repaint pretty soon. But this technology allows you to just get out of the way and allow your communities of interest around you to develop whatever they want out of it. That is also, that notion of getting out of the way is the only way that you can leverage what technology provides. And my own opinion, the key thing that this technology provides is a network. It puts you and all your stuff in a network environment with all sorts of things all over that network, most of which you won't even know about, but for which the resources you put out there could be a benefit. So just let it go. So what does that mean? I've been trying to, at Yale, trying to think about a diagram for faculty, for staff, for students, and in particular for the library at Yale, about how I envision what's the big change. How does this change how we think about our institutions and what we're doing? And what I came up with was this. A funnel and a megaphone. One of the impetuses for this little diagram was the fact that at Yale, in the arts, in the visual arts, in music, and in theater, there are more undergraduate projects published on YouTube than on paper. This is driving the library crazy. Because they used to be the funnel. Everything at Yale would go into the library funnel and come out, and you'd have to go into Sterling Library to find this stuff. What's happened is that while the library still thinks of itself as a funnel at Yale, they collect universally. They bring all the books, they bring all knowledge, and they put it in the top of the funnel, and it comes out for Yale, for faculty and students. What's happened is that while the library still thinks it looks like that, a lot of other people at Yale turn this thing upside down. And they think of themselves as local content, stuff Yale is making, and they're broadcasting it to the world. The library is finally beginning to figure this out. The library is finally beginning to figure out that their acquisitions budget to bring universal knowledge into Yale is probably less important than their ability to broadcast out to the world those things that are in Yale collections that are unique. I think this has an impact for every kind of collecting institution and is a way to think about, so what's the change? What happened here? Why do things feel different? And I think in that context, there are things that in terms of policy, and I want to just for a moment back off of technology, because we think this is all about technology. If you think about that context, one of the key things I think we need to think about is policy. And this is a big argument at Yale right now. We have finally come up with a policy, with an online access policy for Yale collecting institutions that says if the underlying work is in the public domain, let it go. Put high quality images online, let people take them, don't ask who they are, don't ask what they're going to use it for. For anything that is non-commercial use, just let it go. Get out of the way, let them have it. Don't care what they do with it. Creative use, creative reuse, putting mustaches on, British portraits. Anything anybody wants to do is okay. These creative works were made for a creative society and should be able to flow back into that in any way that anybody could imagine, not just Yale. That's the broadcasting arena on the right. It looks back to, and I think in a very positive way, emphasizes, some of you are going to be too young to remember this, Apple's media message for iTunes when it first came out. Basically, Yale is saying, it's your cultural heritage, rip, mix, and burn. Take it, do what you want, and republish it. And don't ask us, just take it and run with it. So those things that don't have other rights associated with it, and it's not just copyright, but there are also privacy rights and lots of other rights that attach to objects. And given your collections, I'm sure that is a serious consideration. But for that you can just let it go, and don't worry about it. That's part of the getting out of the way. And think about people. Part of making it less expensive and sustainable. At the Yale Center for British Art, they have no collections online at the moment. They're very much like you. We started a project a year ago to have all of the collections of the Yale Center for British Art online within 5 years. And that's about 2,000 paintings, 60,000 prints and drawings, 1,000, 1,500 sculpture. So it's a relatively small and contained collection. But the interesting thing is they're in the same position you are. When we started this project, it looked like we had money to burn. Yale's budget was cut 17% last year. It was cut another 17% in the current year. There's a hiring freeze. So we're going to do this in an institution that has zero technology capacity. It doesn't have a duck patinka, it doesn't have anything, and we can hire one person. And so what does that mean? That means we've had to look inside the institution at curators, at educators, at other people and say, if you want to do this, this has to be part of what you're doing. And so a print designer, for example, is going to school right now to understand web design and information architecture. Those things can be seen as, oh, that's not what I wanted to do, or they can be seen as professional development, as good things. And for the institution, it provides a real good link between print design, web design, and it sort of begins to put this technology stuff that used to be in the other room simply as part of what we're doing. And we'll make, in the long run, we'll make that more sustainable.